Your emotional health matters. Anxiety, depression, burnout, stress, worrying, all of ailments deserve attention. I think so many of us don't get help either because we're afraid to get help or we don't realize we need help. We don't realize that what we're suffering through isn't normal. It's not something that we have to be dealing with. We're so accustomed to it because it's been around for so long that we don't even realize it's a problem anymore. There is so much research that's come out about the effects of stress and unresolved trauma on our bodies. Our emotional health needs at least, if not even more, attention than our physical health. People have heart attacks, cancers, autoimmune diseases. All of these ailments, all of these illnesses are linked to emotional suffering. I'm Matt Gerlach, and welcome to Matters of the Mind, Rise to Your Worth. I help high achievers just like you who are privately struggling with shame, anxiety, and burnout create a second half of your life that is fully aligned and full of fulfillment and abundance. About 8 years ago, I started having health problems. I had high blood pressure that turned into me obsessing about my health. I was worrying all the time. I had panic attacks that eventually led me on a healing journey. And underneath all of the physical problems I was facing, I had unresolved childhood trauma that was causing my body to be in a hyper-vigilant, hyper-stressed, hyper-worrying state all the time. I know what it's like to suffer, and I also know what it's like to bravely go on a healing journey and uncover what's going on beneath the suffering, beneath the mental and emotional anguish that I was in. I talk about abundance and alignment. I have gone on this healing journey, and on the other side of it, I created a business that was putting $1 million a year in my pocket, and it's all because I learned I was worth it. My self-worth was in the gutter. I never thought this would be possible for me, and even more than that, emotionally, my life is abundant beyond my wildest dreams. I've been with my partner David for 12 years now, and we just started our surrogacy journey, and it's something I never would have thought possible. I thought I was so damaged and so broken that I could not be a father. I looked around and I saw so many other people having children, and I just thought that wasn't possible for me. I thought something was wrong with me. The last episode, I talked about 3 different healing modalities that really helped me, and they're so attainable. I talked about journaling, I talked about gratitude practice, and I talked about meditation. In this episode, I want to talk about therapy, and I want to take you through my journey of therapy. There are 3 different phases of my life that I found therapy to be extremely beneficial, and I want to take you through those today. I first started seeing a therapist when I was about 22 years old. I had just moved to San Diego, and I knew something was going on. I needed to talk to somebody. I had a lot of trauma in my past. I didn't know it at the time, but I was very afraid to talk to people, to talk to my friends, to burden them with my issues. And at the time, I went because I just needed somebody to talk to. This is the first reason I would recommend or invite you to consider therapy. You need someone to talk to. You don't want to talk to your friends, your family, you feel afraid to. A therapist is the answer in that situation. They are there for you. You're going to start opening up, and it's going to feel really good to just open up. At this point, I wasn't necessarily looking for feedback, I would say. Of course, it came a little bit here and there, but I just needed somebody to talk to. I was worrying a lot. I felt a lot of shame for who I was. I didn't really know myself, and I just needed somebody to talk to, and I didn't want to bother anybody else. I thought that what was going on with me was so unique. I thought that if I were to share with other people that I was feeling just confused about life, that I thought I was ugly. I thought I was broken on the inside. Those were thoughts that were so private, and I was afraid to talk to people about it because I thought if my loved ones found out about that, they would reject me. I thought that there was something about me that was just so different, and I needed to talk to somebody. I want to say that in this situation, it's like you're talking to someone who's like paid to listen to you, and they are paid to listen to you. I think it's really important. If you just feel like you need someone to talk to, like you're just not sure what's going on, and you feel lonely, you feel depressed, you feel confused, a therapist is a great place to turn. Not only are they great at listening, they're trained. They went to school for this. They do know how to direct the conversation. They know what sort of advice to give you. And I found that to be extremely beneficial for me. I continued in therapy like this, more or less, for the following almost 15 years. Looking back now, I'm really surprised to say this, but it's totally true. I don't know what we really talked about. I don't have a lot of memories of it. I have a few here and there, but I wasn't open to being honest about what was really going on. I think I must have been asked about my childhood. I must have been asked about memories, about things that were painful for me to admit. And I was just really protective, and I didn't want anybody else to be incriminated. I didn't want to be honest with myself even. I didn't know how to be honest with myself. I talk about this, and I think that our life is sending us wake-up calls, and they just keep getting louder and louder until we finally listen. I don't think it was until my life really started sending me wake-up calls that forced me to listen that I was willing to really pull back the curtain and see what was going on. But in the meantime, having somebody to talk to helped me so much. I felt so much less alone. The second thing that's happened in my life, the second phase that I've been in that's really provoked me to go to therapy, is that I knew something was going on and I needed help exploring it. This is a little bit different than the first phase where I just needed to talk to somebody, where I was lonely. The second phase is more like, I know something is going on. I know that it's not normal. I don't like the word normal. What is normal? But I know it's not healthy. I know it's not ideal to constantly be worried. I know it's not ideal to feel stressed to this level. I know it's not ideal that I'm feeling depressed and I can't get myself out of it. I think going to a therapist during a phase like this can be so beneficial because they will help you work through the problem. They will help you diagnose what's going on. And a general therapist can help point you in the right direction. If you need medication, or if you need to speak to a psychiatrist, or if there's an addiction problem, if there's some sort of specific problem, they'll point you in that direction and help you get help. But starting with a therapist to really help you diagnose what is going on and to help start asking those questions when you're ready for feedback. I didn't go to therapy last year. I have so many coaches going on, and I do think that there is a lot of crossover between coaching and therapy. So I took 2023 off of therapy, and something sort of started percolating. At the end of last year, I started to see that there's something below the surface. I know that there's some memories that are harming me. I have a very tight jaw right now, and I'm not really sure what's going on. I've spoken to some energy healers. I've spoken to a lot of different people, and what I've been told is that this is probably indicating that I'm holding something in. There's something that I'm afraid to be saying. There's something that I don't know really what's going on. I have some hunches, and I've had this tight jaw for my whole life. I've actually just came back from a therapy session a few minutes ago, and I thought it would be an appropriate time to share this. But I'm starting to get a lot more clarity on this. We're not sure what's going on. My therapist is not sure where this is leading, but we are exploring these memories that I'm having. More memories are coming up through a technique called IFS, internal family systems. And it's really an exploratory phase. I am getting more clarity that I think there was something, or several things that happened to me when I was a child. I'm starting to be able to connect the dots that have made my jaw hold this pressure. I'm holding something in that needs to be said. And it's really been interesting. I think that I had to show up to therapy being willing to uncover what was happening, to be willing to take the feedback, to be willing to see this through. It's a lot different than just wanting somebody to talk to. It's like I'm going to get the feedback. I'm going to learn the reality of what really is going on here. And the reality is I might not like what I find out. And I am at a place right now, after all of these years of healing, that I am actually open to that. I really want to know what's going on. And through my healing journey, actually a lot through meditation, I can actually feel right now, oftentimes when I'm meditating, my mind is in a really good place. I have done so much work on myself around my mind. And I think I'm at this place where my body is still holding on to something. My body has kept the score. And this morning, even during meditation, I felt like just stress in my body, and I'm not mentally stressed. And I'm going to therapy right now to get help exploring this, to try to figure out what direction I need to head in, what's going on. And I hope that this is something that I find out sooner than later. I'm along for the ride. This might be a long journey and I might never get exact clarity on it, but I'm exploring what's going on. And I think that's a great reason to go to therapy. You want help exploring what's going on. There's another time that I have found therapy to be incredibly beneficial. This is the third phase of life, another phase of life that I would invite you to consider therapy. This might be when therapy is less voluntary and more required, more necessary. It's when something horrific has happened. It's when a trauma has happened. It's when you actually need help getting through the day. It's when you are so depressed. It's when you're so anxious. It's when you had an event happen that you can't really deal with on your own. And going to see a therapist is going to be incredibly beneficial during this time because they're going to help you through it. They are trained to help you through this. For me, this has been more or less my healing journey. I started having panic attacks that were so disruptive that I couldn't drive anymore. I'd been in the hospital already because I thought I was having a heart attack. I was worried all the time. I couldn't set boundaries at work, at home. I just was so dysregulated all the time. And I went to therapy to get help. And that's when I realized my childhood left a lot of scars on me. It was traumatic and it never was dealt with. And at 33, 34 years old, I started to not be able to keep it in any longer. And a therapist really helped me through this. I saw a few different therapists over those 7-8 years that I was really on this massive healing journey. During this time, I was going to therapy sometimes 2-3 times a week because I was in significant distress. My life had just sent me these wake-up calls that I could not ignore. And I think about this and I've no doubt there were wake-up calls before these panic attacks, before my blood pressure was through the roof, before going to the hospital, but I wasn't listening. They weren't disruptive enough in my life. And this is not a drill anymore. It's like I needed help. I had been stuffing down my emotions, ignoring my feelings for so long that I finally needed to deal with it. About 2 years after the wake-up calls had started happening, something really big happened. I was at couples therapy, actually, with my partner on a Friday night. We sure know how to have a good time, right? And we had a massive breakthrough, actually. And I wasn't able to tell David something that I needed from him. And the therapist was pushing me. She thought that she had no idea that I was like not able to advocate for my needs. I had been in therapy and she thought that I was like, this wasn't a problem for me. And she kept saying, Matt, tell David what you need. And I was like, I can't. And then finally I just burst out crying because I realized that I had always been punished for my needs when I was a child. I remember being told things like, I was the only one with a problem and my need, and it just really made me hate my needs. Like when you're a child and you're being told that you're the only one that has a problem and that like what I needed for safety was just completely outlandish and selfish. I kept that with me my entire life. And we were probably about 34 years old at this time when this finally came out. And then my grandmother had just died. I thought everybody wanted to heal, and I tried to do the best I could in bringing this to my family. And we had a huge fight, and we didn't talk for 3 years, and that just opened up the floodgates for me. I got to see the reality of the dysfunction of our family without having anyone's feelings to protect. And I just went on a massive healing journey. I was in therapist's office nonstop. I started with a somatic therapist. I tried this other therapy called neurofeedback. I started journaling nonstop. And all of these memories were coming back. And I remember saying this, like before this, I could have told you about my childhood in like 2 paragraphs. And during this time, I was suffering so badly that I needed help. I needed my therapists to help me through this. And I kept going and kept showing up. And it all started to get better. We worked through this. And these therapists that I worked with, like, they're trained for this. They know how to help people get out of distress. They knew how to teach me. When I think back to it, what I really needed to learn was that I'm not a child anymore and I have agency. And although growing up, I was punished for those needs, I am allowed to need what I want now. And I learned that I'm an adult and that I could advocate for myself. And my life completely changed from this. Like, it was so hard going through this, but like, it was what brought me the peace that I have, the inner peace that I have now. I healed and I worked through this all, and therapy helped me with that. And I wouldn't be where I'm at today if I didn't go to therapy. I remember receiving some admonishment. I remember being told that I need to just look forward and not look backward. I recall feeling bad that I was, I felt so bad, and I felt so much shame and guilt for excavating these memories and for causing hardship for the people around me, that I was not able to keep my feelings to myself anymore. But I needed to feel my feelings. I needed to acknowledge what was going on. And I was able to do that with a therapist. And the therapist helped me create boundaries around my family, around friendships that were no longer serving me, because I needed to heal. And if I would have just ignored that, I don't know that I would be here today. I remember thinking very clearly, I have this in my journals and I see them from time to time, but I would have bet $1 million at this point, when I was really suffering, that I wouldn't have lived to see my 40th birthday. That's how bad things were. And they've gotten so beautiful by facing my reality, by going back and working through this. I guess all of these three reasons, these three different phases, are somewhat related. I needed somebody to talk to, and that was phase one. That was the first step. And I talked, and it was my journey, but I would advise you to try to be as honest as you can with yourself and with a therapist. The therapist isn't judging you. There are better therapists than others. I would highly advise you, if you go to 1, 2, no more than 3 therapy sessions and you're not feeling it, if this therapist isn't making you feel safe, move on. I talk to so many people who say, I tried therapy and I quit and I'll never try it again because they had a bad experience. I've had a couple of bad therapists. I mean, maybe we just weren't the right fit, but there were a couple that, like, when you're being so vulnerable, they do leave scars. You got to move on. If it's appropriate, you got to trust your instinct. And trust me, like, if it doesn't feel right, move on. I've probably worked with 10, 12 different therapists throughout the years. Some of them have moved and things change, insurances change and stuff. But I'll tell you, I mean, I think all but 2 of them were really, really, really good. And, even all but 1, I would say. 1 was a little bit weird. Just, I don't think we were a match. But the point is, like, move on if it's not the right fit. There's somebody else out there. And I've come to learn, like, I don't think they're judging you. I think that you might feel judged. I've definitely felt judged. And that's an indication that it's not the right fit. Like, they might have good intentions. And I like to think, like, they're probably have better things to do with their life than to judge you. And they probably speak to a lot of people who are a lot more crazy than you and I are. But if you feel judged, move on. That's a fair reason to move on and find somebody else. And opening up and talking to somebody eventually led me to be curious. I started poking underneath the hood, behind the curtain, and I was open to getting feedback and to understand what was going on. And then once I did figure out what was going on, it was crisis mode. It was a shitstorm. I mean, I was going through pain that I had never felt before. And that's what happens when you bury your emotions for 35 years or however old I was at the exact time. And now, I feel like I've worked through crisis mode. I don't really feel that I need a therapist to talk to. Actually, I've been told to not waste my precious therapy time just talking at this point, because I have so much practice doing it and I'm so open with my feelings, and I have great friends. I talk to all the people in my life very openly about my feelings. And that's what happens, honestly. Like, I even look at myself now versus 6 months ago. I am incredibly open. And what's changed is that I've relinquished the shame. Like, I really used to think, and I'm sure the same way you think, that you're the only one who's crazy, or you're the only one who has a problem. Like, we are all crazy, like and I say that delicately, I'm saying that laughingly, but like, it's really been interesting to me now that I'm coaching people. It's so beautiful that we're all struggling with the same things. We all want to be doing better. We all want to be taking care of ourselves better. We all wish we were more disciplined. We all want love. We all want to be seen and heard. We're all struggling with the same thing. And I've become a lot more open with my friends right now, just about things that are going on in my life that I want to change. I'm going to talk about this in the next episode, but health is a big thing for me. Like, I feel shame that I don't take care of myself perfectly health-wise. I've learned that a lot of us are in that same boat, and none of us are perfect. But our health is really important. I'm not in a dire place with my health or anything, but I know how much better I feel when I take care of myself. I know how much happier I am when I look in the mirror and see a body that is beautiful because I've taking care of it. Like, it's really important to me. And I've just become a lot more open with friends about that lately because we're all struggling with it. But yeah, therapy has brought me to a place now where I'm curious. This jaw problem that's been going on, I am really interested. And it's more than that. Like I said this morning during meditation, I totally felt like just stress all over my body. And it's not in my mind because I've gotten so much help with my mind. My body's holding on to something, and I'm curious what it is. And I'm prepared for what I find out, but I'm a little scared to see what I find out. I think there might be some stuff there that's going to be painful, but I'm open to it. And I know that on the other side of discovery and working through what I find out, there's relief. There's a new beautiful level, a new beautiful stage in life that comes once we work through what we are holding on to. I like to say that if we keep it inside, it's just eating us alive. All right, I'm going to end the show right here today, but I want to thank you for listening. I am grateful to have you along. If you have any questions, please reach out. I'm an open book and I really care about you. And I want to see you get relief. If you're suffering from anxiety, depression, honestly, I got to say, like, after all this, I have literally eradicated my anxiety that I'm feeling in my mind. I'm learning now that there's stuff in my body, but like, I don't worry the way that I used to because I've learned to trust myself. And I've learned that what happened to me, what I was told during childhood, that's not true. I am an adult now and I make my own decisions. And by learning that, by healing, by growing, my life has completely changed and it continues to change. And I want to help you with that. I have a few open spots available right now for high performance coaching. I work with elite performers, people who have done everything right in life, but they just can't seem to get their life into a place of fulfillment and alignment and abundance. You've proven to yourself that you're reliable. You know you're doing everything right. You know you're successful, but you just don't feel on the inside like you want to feel. And I work with people just like you and help you change your life so your outside environment matches the inside desires you have. I know what it's like. I've been there, to have done everything right, to hit all the outside measures of success and to still inside feel like I'm broken and damaged and like something's wrong with me. So I'll leave you right there today. Thank you for listening, and please press the subscribe button and leave a comment. I'd be so grateful for your review, and I'll catch you next show. Take care.